everyone. Welcome to Enjoy English. I'm Steven.
大家好，我是 Bernice.
Today's date is November 4th. We're on day 2 looking at pages 8 to 11 on celebrations.
Yep.
The Day of the Dead, honoring life through death.
我们今天进入到第二天我们的这个全球节庆这样的一个单元了。虽然今天讲的这个主题呢，感觉好像有点沉重啦，讲的是墨西哥他们的亡灵节，要透过这个死亡呢来纪念我们的生命。可是呢，对于墨西哥人来说，其实他们就觉得说死亡就是生命周期的一部分，也不用说你感到过于的悲伤或怎么样。
Yes.Guided by flowers, remembered by hearts.
他们在这一天呢，是用花，我们刚刚知道是这个万寿菊来做引领，并且呢，用他们的心来铭记。
All right, let's get started.
好的。
The Day of the Dead, honoring life through death. Historians believe the origins of the Day of the Dead go back to the 14th century.During the time of the Aztecs, who had similar rituals that emphasized death as a natural part of life. About 200 years later, the Spanish introduced Roman Catholicism and stressed the importance of honoring the dead through Catholic rituals. The Day of the Dead then developed into a mix of native traditions and Catholic beliefs.During the Day of the Dead, marigolds can be seen everywhere. People use them to decorate altars and gravesites with lit candles beside them. When the warm glow of the flames and the yellow flowers are placed together, it is believed that the spirits of the dead can find their way home by the bright colors and the strong scent of the flowers.According to tradition, the spirits of the dead have to travel for years before reaching their final resting place. During the celebration, people offer food, water, and items to help these souls overcome the challenges of the afterlife. Although death can be a very sad occasion, this festival is lighthearted.People paint their faces like grinning skulls and dance in the streets. Few events in the world can take something so sad and turn it into a celebration of hope and memory.
All right, so I first want to call attention to this holiday, Day of the Dead. In Spanish, it's called Dia de los Muertos.which translates to Day of the Dead, but you might hear Dia de los Muertos even when it comes to an English context, because sometimes a lot of people in the Western world, they don't want to translate everything. They want to keep some words the same, so they might not change that title to English. So you might see Dia de los Muertos. Muertos, M-U-E-R-T-O-S. Okay, all right.Historians believe the origins of the Day of the Dead go back to the 14th century during the time of the Aztecs, who had similar rituals that emphasized death as a natural part of life.
好的，我们 Day 2的一开始这个第一个句子也是非常的长，不过它已经在讲到历史了，就是为什么会有亡灵节这样的一个节日呢？就像每一个国家它的所有的节日都一定有它的一个起源。所以他这时候就说了，历史学家呢，他们就这么认为了。其实亡灵节的一个起源呢，是可以追溯回到 go back to 在第14世纪。那个世纪呢，是他们的所谓的阿兹特克人的一个时期。那个时期呢，他就讲了阿兹特克人是什么人呢 ？Who， 所以这个 who 就是指前面这一族的人，一样要加逗点，因为它是一个专有的名词。这一群人呢，他们其实都有一种相同的 rituals。我们知道这个 rituals 就是一种仪式，这个宗教的一种仪式。他们呢，其实都有一种类似的这种仪式。这个仪式呢，是什么样的仪式呢 ？That 用冠带来形容这样的一个宗教的仪式。这个仪式主要在强调 emphasize 就在强调呢，其实死亡这件事情是一个什么样的事，所以 emphasize something as something。 把这个东西强调成一种我们生命中很自然的一部分。
Right. So here, looking at go back to the 14th century, 这不是叫你要回去14世纪。
对，不能真的回去。
Right. This is just saying it dates back to.
Yeah.
Okay, so the origins of the Day of the Dead dates back to the 14th century. Okay, that's another option to use. What are rituals? You did say 仪式, but another word for 仪式 is ceremony, right?
Yeah, 典礼。
典礼 C-E-R-E-M-O-N-Y. So a ritual is a religious ceremony with a series of actions performed and usually in a particular order. Okay, so it's a religious ceremony. That's what a ritual is.
Yeah.
Okay, and emphasizing something is just putting importance on something. Okay, so it's putting importance on or calling attention to death as a natural part of life. About 200 years later, the Spanish introduced Roman Catholicism and stressed the importance of honoring the dead through Catholic rituals.
然后接着呢，他就讲了，后来是过了大概200年之后呢，发生了什么事情呢？当时的西班牙人，他们就 introduce， 就是指慢慢的传入了，他们慢慢传进到了这个所谓的罗马的天主教，他们把罗马天主教传入进来了。那传入进来之后呢，他们当下就 stress， 这个 stress 也就是刚才的 emphasize，是一样的，就是也强调了一个重要性。什么样的重要性呢？就是 honoring， 为什么加 ing？ 因为你前面有个介系词嘛，所以你这个 honor 当然要加 ing 咯。它主要呢就是说，要来纪念这些死者的重要性，他们也很强调哦。而且他们是透过什么样的方式呢？因为刚才讲了，因为他们是传入了所谓的罗马天主教，所以呢，他们是透过天主教的这种仪式来纪念这些死者的重要性。
So the way that this sentence started about 200 years ago, or about 200 years later, so it's talking about from the 14th century and then 200 years later after that.
Yeah.
Okay. About, we could also use the preposition around.
Yes.
Okay. So around 200 years later is also something that we see often as well. So Roman Catholicism, that C there is pronounced with an S sound. Okay. Catholicism. Okay. And stress, if it's in the noun form, usually that means 压力, right? And then stress as a verb can also mean to give someone 压力, to give someone stress. So I don't mean to stress you out.
Yes.
But in this sentence, we're not stressing anybody out. We're just putting importance on the importance of honoring the dead. Okay, so that's why we're using stress. And as Bernice also mentioned, we can also use the word emphasize there as well. It's just that we already have that word earlier in the paragraph, and it's good to learn other words that mean the same thing.
没错。
The Day of the Dead then developed into a mix of native traditions and Catholic beliefs.
好啦，所以既然呢有了这个所谓的天主教的仪式也引进了，所以这个时候我们就知道这个亡灵节呢 then 就随之而后呢，它就发展成为 developed into， 发展成为了一个什么呢？一种 mix， 就是大家把它混合在一起，一种融合。这个融合是什么呢？第一个就是他们当地本土的一些传统，还有呢，当然就是天主教本身的 beliefs， 他们的信仰，这两种就融合在一起了。
So I do like how today's lesson started out talking about the history behind Day of the Dead. Because in yesterday's lesson, we learned a lot of general information, like what people do and then why they do it. And then this is a good way to kind of start today's lesson being like, okay, now that you know kind of a general idea what it is about, let me tell you a little bit about the history so you know the context behind these beliefs. Yes, so carrying on, we're going to learn a little bit more. So let's take a short break.
好的。
So in yesterday's lesson, we did introduce some things that you might see during the Day of the Dead. One of the things was the marigolds. Okay, so we're going to share a little bit of information about that in this particular paragraph.
鲜黄色的万寿菊。
Yes. During the Day of the Dead, marigolds can be seen everywhere.
其实呢，就在亡灵节的这个期间呢，你在整个墨西哥到处你都可以看到这个漂亮的这个金黄色的万寿菊。
So here, I do see a lot of students who are confused about the difference between anywhere and everywhere. Okay, so everywhere 是到处都有
Yes.
anywhere 是任何地
Yeah,
方都有
任何地方。
Okay, so here I think 到处看得到 is probably a better option.
Yes.
Okay, marigolds can be seen everywhere, but you could say marigolds can be seen anywhere. It wouldn't be inappropriate to say that as well. Okay. People use them to decorate altars and grave sites with lit candles beside them.
好，所以呢，在这个句子我们可以知道，人们呢为什么会需要这个万寿菊，主要就是他们要用这些很漂亮的金黄色的万寿菊呢，来装饰他们这些过世的亲人，好的这一个所谓的灵坛。并且还有他们的墓地，后面原本是 site 就是一个地点嘛，那我们知道 grave 就是一个墓的意思。那这个东西呢，用什么来装饰？我们刚才前面学过了 decorate something with， 好，用什么？用这个呢，第一个点燃的蜡烛，我们知道这个 lit 原本是 light， 它的 pp light lit lit， 所以这个 lit candles 就是被点燃的蜡烛，然后就把这个蜡烛呢放在这个旁边，然后把它点燃着，并且用这个万寿菊来装饰。
Yeah, so here in this sentence, we see them, okay? We see it twice, actually. Usually when we have one them, it's talking about just one particular item. You don't want to confuse people with what them are you talking about. But here, this paragraph's main subject is the marigolds.
Yes.
So them is just replacing that word marigold. The author just doesn't want to keep using that word over and over. So people use these marigolds to decorate altars and grave sites. Another word you can often see is graveyard. Okay, but graveyard is like a whole area that has a lot of graves. And a grave site is just saying a location of a grave. It doesn't have to be more than one. It can just be one grave.
对，所以老师刚刚讲一个是 graveyard， 就是整个是墓园，就里面你可以看到好多大家的这个坟墓。但是如果是现在我们这个字呢，就它可能只有一个，它不一定说要很多个这样。
Yes. When the warm glow of the flames and the yellow flowers are placed together, it is believed that the spirits of the dead can find their way home by the bright colors and the strong scent of the flowers.
那为什么呢？墨西哥人他们要选择这样的一种这个花呢？万寿菊呢？他说主要是因为我们刚刚讲了嘛，它是金黄的这个亮亮的这个黄色，想想看，很太阳的这个光，好亮亮的，你就会觉得哇，当这种温暖，有吗？很温暖的 glow， 我们知道 glow 就是那个光，好，这个照射出来的这些光辉啊，这个光辉呢，尤其是什么 flames 这种火焰。因为它在旁边不是点燃了蜡烛啦，所以这个蜡烛所燃烧出来的这一些所谓的火焰，发光的火焰，带给人一种温暖的感觉。而且呢，这个颜色它是 yellow， 它是这种金黄色的这个花朵呢，也把它放在被跟它放在一起的时候，又有这边也有黄色，火焰燃烧出来这个火焰呢，又是很温暖的一个光。It is believed that， 就是 people believe that， 人们就这么认为了，这些 spirits of the dead， 就是这些死亡的人，就可以找寻到他们回家的路。怎么找呢？ By 借着什么样的方式？就是因为呢，它有这样子的一个 bright colors， 这样的一种鲜艳的颜色。还有呢，因为这个万寿菊它本身会有这种浓郁的花香味，那闻到了这个东西，又看到了那个鲜艳的颜色，我就可以找回到我的家在哪啦。
Yeah, so here, warm glow, Bernice also said that, it can be like the feeling is very warm. But sometimes we also say that the look of it is very warm. That just means that it's not so bright, but when you look at it, it makes you feel warm. It makes you feel comfortable. It doesn't hurt your eyes. So we can say that it looks like it's very warm. The color is very warm. A warm glow of the flames. What is the difference between flame and fire? Okay. A flame is usually like a smaller, like a fire. It's like, when you have a candle and it's burning, we can say that's fire, but usually we would call that a flame. It looks like just one piece of a fire, if you will. Yeah.
火就是一整片的，所以失火的你一定是用 fire， 你不可能用 flame。flame 就是一点点小火焰这样子。
Yes. Okay. And also here, are placed together. You can also say are put together. And why is it? It is believed that the spirits of the dead, if you had started the part after the comma, the spirits of the dead can find their way home, a lot of times people don't necessarily believe that this is true since it's not scientifically proven. So it's better to say it is believed that because nobody has concrete evidence that this is evidently true. It's necessarily true.
对，这个句子为什么用刚刚老师解释 it is believed that 这个 it 就是指前面这件事情，他们之所以选择用万寿菊这样的一个花，然后并且在它旁边点上这个火焰这个蜡烛的原因，是因为他们大部分在墨西哥的人都这么认为，这样子我做的一个仪式或一个方法，可以把这些死亡的人的亡灵给引回家。
Let's take a short break.
好的。
According to tradition, the spirits of the dead have to travel for years before reaching their final resting place.
好啦，根据他们的传统是这么说的啦哈。如果呢你死亡之后，那么死者的这个亡灵呢，你可能必须得 have to travel for years， 你要好几年的时间都在外长途跋涉，就是这边晃一晃，那边晃一晃，好几年的时间。Before they reach 一直到他们最后抵达他们的哪里呢？他们的 final resting place， 他们最后的安息之地。那在这边就是指说他们的墓园嘛，就是他们最后要回到他们可以睡觉的地方，可能你要先在外面长途跋涉个好几年哦。
Yeah, and I do like how this paragraph started with according to. Whenever we have something that we're stating and we know that it can't be proven to be fact, according to is a really good way to start. Okay, so you people that are reading it or listening, they know that whatever is following is not necessarily proven to be 100% true, but it's something that is believed to be true.
没错。
Okay, the spirits of the dead must travel or need to travel, or in this paragraph, we have to travel. These are all 必须要, okay?
Yes.
Need to travel for years before. So Bernice 老师 pronounced it in a way that I hear a lot, before, which is perfectly fine. Another way is before. Some people do pronounce that E, some people pronounce it B, okay? So it's just whatever makes you happy, okay? Before reaching their final resting place. So when we say the final resting place of someone or a spirit, it means like the final location where they're able to just stop moving and then, just really rest and let their souls just die.
就是安息之地啦。
Yeah. During the celebration, people offer food, water, and items to help these souls overcome the challenges of the afterlife.
那因为呢，你要长途的在外面跋涉，而且好几年，那怎么办呢？那就在这一种所谓的他们的这个庆祝的活动里面啊，就是庆祝这个亡灵节的时候呢，那么在世的人呢，就会提供一些食物啦、水啦，还有一些其他的一些 items， 就是其他的可能他们需要用到的物品，然后就来帮助这些灵魂。这时候他就把那个 spirits 改成那个 souls 跟灵魂了。为什么要准备这些东西呢？主要就是让你去克服呢，你在这个 afterlife， 就是说呢，你在死后，你可能还有一些挑战嘛，比如说你死后可能还要跟人家比赛，或还要跟人家这个去慢跑，好比赛运动等等等，反正就是你会有一些所谓的挑战。为了你死后的挑战，我们在世的人就帮你准备了食物啦、水啦，还有一些其他必须的物件。
And sorry, I want to call attention back to the resting place in the previous sentence. In the Western world, like in America, a lot of people believe the final resting place is after you die and when you're where you're buried. But according to Mexican traditions, according to this, the final resting place is actually years after they have been buried. Like they have to go to somewhere in the afterlife. And that's where their resting place is. So the final resting place in different cultures is a different location.
没错。
It's more spiritual in the Mexican tradition. And when we talk about the souls in this sentence, it's another way to say the spirits of the dead. I think the author just didn't want to keep using spirits of the dead. So the souls of the dead is another way to say that. And the afterlife, another way to say that is life after death. The challenges of life after death. Okay. All right, let's take a short break.
好的。
Although death can be a very sad occasion, this festival is lighthearted.
虽然呢，我们都知道死亡这件事情啊，可能会是让人家觉得相当这一个悲伤的一种时刻。这边的 occasion 呢，就是 a particular time， 一个比较特殊的一个时刻啦哈。但是呢，像这样子的一种亡灵节的这样的一个庆祝的方式，这样的一个 festival 呢，其实啊，对很多人来说是 light-hearted。我们知道 light 就是很轻啦，heart 就是你的心，你的心变得很轻松，就是表示啊，其实这个节日呢，也可以让你觉得轻松愉快。就像老师刚刚讲，你不用每个人大家都在那边抱着那个木在那边哭啊，在那边喊啊，也不需要这样，你也可以用一种很轻松愉快的方式来庆祝这样的一个节日。
And I like how the author said, can be a very sad occasion. Maybe it's a happy occasion for some people. So we're not saying 100% is always going to be sad, but it can be. 它可能会是一个 sad occasion. And then lighthearted, another way you could say that is not serious or cheerful or carefree. Okay, just anything that makes your heart not feel so heavy.
Yeah.
And not so sad. Okay, it can be very something that makes you happy or positive. People paint their faces like grinning skulls and dance in the streets.
好，所以呢，这时候要怎么样让你的心情稍微的愉快一些呢？不要那么样的沉重呢？这时候他们的人们呢，就会把他们的脸开始画上颜色了，涂成什么样的颜色呢？他说，比如说 greeny 就是你的牙齿要露出来的这种笑容啊，然后 skulls 就是骷髅头，所以把你自己的脸涂成那个牙齿这样露出来，然后的那一个骷髅头的样子，然后大家呢还要在街道上面跳舞，注意 dance in the streets 不是 on， 你又不是在那个街上一直不断的不停旋转啊，你又不是这样子，所以你是在整个街道里面，然后 street 要加 s， 你是在各个不同的街道，你不是在某一条街上就在这边跳，所以呢，你有好几个街，所以大家就会在街道上面共舞这样子。
Yeah, so grin, G-R-I-N, this verb is very similar to smile. Okay, so they both just mean 微笑, right?
是
But grin, usually you can see the teeth.
没错
Okay, smile, you can or cannot see the teeth. Sometimes you can smile with your mouth closed, right? But grin, usually you can imagine seeing someone's teeth. Okay. Few events in the world can take something so sad and turn it into a celebration of hope and memory.
没错，这倒是最后这句话讲的真的是蛮真实的一个样子。他说 few， 记得 few 就是很少很少啦哈，但是它还是一个可数的一个字，所以你后面还是要用 events， 还是要加 s。在世界上面其实相当少有这样的一种庆祝的活动。这个活动呢，可以 take something so sad， 把原本这么样大家觉得有人你爱的人，你的亲人过世这样的事情，应该是一个很难过的事情。可是你把它转变成什么？一种 celebration， 这样的一种庆祝，而且这样的一个庆典呢，是充满着 hope 希望以及回忆的。
Yeah, so personally for me, I think because death is a part of life, it's inevitable, which means it cannot be avoided.
不可避免。
Yeah, I feel like sometimes looking at it like the Mexican tradition does, I think is a good way to kind of face it because it's a part of life that you that has to happen. You might as well, make it into a festival where you can celebrate a loved one instead of crying and being sad and depressed. I understand those are real emotions, so you can't, pretend you're not sad. But if you can try to change that to knowing that you once shared great memories with this loved one, I feel like that's like a better way to face it. I think, so you're not making yourself so sad.
不但是我觉得是对于在活着的人，对死亡的人也是一样但死亡的人也会觉得说，哇，你们现在就是为了我曾经的美好的回忆，跟你们的共度的美好回忆，然后你们替我准备这样的一个庆典，他们自己可能也会觉得非常的这个开心的。
Yeah. So hopefully you guys learned a lot about the Mexican tradition of Day of the Dead. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.